You have seen documentarians and eco-tourists swimming with sharks, right? Swimming with dolphins. You want to get right down to the nitty-gritty of threats to the planet, though, and all the various creatures in it, adorable and otherwise? Then what you really have to do now is swim with trash.
I am surrounded by this ribbon of refuse. You have plastic baby shoes, and I feel things touching up against me. There's glass, plastic bags, human refuse. Just imagine the impact that all this waste, the hundreds and hundreds of tons of it floating just behind me, how this waste impacts the ecosystem and the wildlife.
Maddow-Jeff Corwin, our guest in just a moment. His Future Earth documentary, 100 Heartbeats, tracks down the biggest threats to the species that we as a planet are most in danger of losing forever. One of those threats is dumping trash in waterways that flow right into the ocean. Another, fair warning, this is slightly upsetting, is that we poach and trade endangered animals on the skeevy black market.
This is a rice paddy snail-eating turtle. It looks alive. You feel like you've just sort of helped this creature out. And in fact, it's been boiled. These are geckos right here. These are tokay geckos. These lizards have been freshly gutted. That's the head of the soft-shell turtle. There's the eyes, there's the snorkel, here's the mouth.
Jeff Corwin, the host of 100 Heartbeats, joins us now here in the studio. Jeff, congratulations on this film.
Thank you, Rachel.
Let me ask you about this last upsetting footage that we just saw. Illegal trafficking in endangered animals like that. It's illegal. Can it actually be stopped? Are these laws enforceable?
They are enforceable, but it's very important that we recognize that where there are people breaking the laws, selling these materials, slaughtering wildlife out in the wilderness, there are people buying it. So you have to deal with the consumption as well as the aspect of the black trafficking itself. It's a huge industry. I don't think people really recognize how insidious the black market trade of wildlife is. It's a $20 billion a year industry. It's second only to the narcotics and arms trade.
And the dealing with the consumption side of it is both PR and criminal law.
It is, and you know, basically, animals are killed for the black market trade for a number of reasons. One, for the bushmeat trade, and bushmeat is consumed around the world. It's consumed as subsistence food for poor people, and it's consumed as prestige meat as well. So you're having a big banquet, and your daughter's getting married, and you want some fancy endangered species for dinner. It's also the result of animals that are slaughtered for the medicinal trade: rhino horns, ivory, various other animals' parts, tiger bones, tiger fat. All these animals are killed, and these parts are harvested and sold in the black market trade for medicine and also for the ornamental trade. For example, a rhino's horn used as a sheath for a sword in Yemen, or elephant tusks. It's a big deal. It's a big industry. But what is very important to remember is that it's only one element that leads towards extinction. It works in tandem, in partnership with habitat loss and climate change and human population growth.
Well, especially on the issue of habitat loss, when I think about the endangered species fights that have gotten a lot of attention in my lifetime, I grew up in Northern California, and I remember all the spotted owl jokes about the Pacific Northwest. The way that they are caricatured and really represented popularly is that it's endangered species protected at the cost of human jobs. It's either economic development or it's preservation. It's humans v. animals. We're heading into a very rough economic time right now. We're already in one. It's going to keep getting rougher for a while. What's the other way to frame this argument to make the case that it's worth it to protect these animals?
It's actually, for me, it's an easy argument. If you look at the fact that 1 out of every 20 jobs is directly impacted or connected towards a healthy environment, whether it's commercial fisheries or logging. For example, you can look at the logging industry, which was very much wrapped around the spotted owl campaign. Today, spotted owls are the least of their problem. It's the pine beetle, which is destroying both wild, protected, and commercial forests, both redwood and other sorts of conifers throughout the Pacific Northwest. See, what happens is, because of climate change, the winters aren't cold enough. And this beetle, which would normally die off, is now overpopulating. And that's why when you see this footage, you see what should be an intact forest, and it's all blighted and brown, is from this beetle. We know from climate change that already our seas are up by 7 inches. Our atmospheric temperature is up by 1 degrees Fahrenheit. And if this melting continues, what people don't realize is that 70% of our planet's glaciers have receded by 60%. And all that water has to go somewhere. And if the present melting of glaciers stays on course. For example, the Arctic right now is losing about 10% every year. If that continues on course, we could have a rise in sea level of 27 inches. You think how that could
changing the world. Yeah.
And I mean, and with regard to the economics, if you're someone who worries about economics, if you worry about business and you worry about money, you better be concerned about climate change, because climate change will truly impact that. The outdoor recreational industry is a $750 billion a year industry, and that will be hugely impacted by climate change.
100 Heartbeats was a year in the making, 7 countries, 4 continents. If you had to give up your job right now, which admittedly is a very cool job, and you were going to instead go join one of the people who you met on this adventure who's doing heroic work to save animals that are endangered, who would you go work with?
It's a hard choice to make. It's like I have 2 children, and it's like picking my favorite child, which I have one, but I'll never let her know. But uh-oh, her. I got two daughters, so it's okay. You know, it's really hard. You know, I began this project, 100 Heartbeats, out of a paper I read when I was in college. When I was an undergraduate student, I read this. I don't know if you've ever heard of E.O. Wilson. He's the iconic scientist. He's my idol. And he wrote this article in the early 90s about the 100 Heartbeat Club that would someday live in a world where there could be just 100 individuals or less. And we laughed about it. And now we're there. That was the inspiration to write the book, and then MSNBC sent me on this incredible year-long journey. You know, there was Lori Marker, my friend with the cheetahs. She was there to tell me this story where a cheetah had been killed by a rancher, and her belly was undulating, and they cut open the belly, and there were 2 cubs that survived. But for me, I would say it's frogs. I began my career, my dad was a Boston cop, and we lived in a 3-decker, and he took me out to look for frogs. And to be able to tell the plight of these incredible creatures on this documentary, to give them importance as much as a cheetah, it was a privilege.
Jeff Corwin's documentary 100 Heartbeats premieres in high definition as part of NBC's Green Week on Sunday at 8 o'clock Eastern, only on MSNBC. I've seen it. It's awesome. Jeff, congratulations
again.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. We'll be right back.